Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Hunt, and on behalf of the Bovine and DeLaval, I will be the moderator today. I want to appreciate you all for joining. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Nancy Charlton. I've had the opportunity or pleasure of knowing Nancy for probably over 30 years now. We grew up not far from each other, and I've had the opportunity to see Nancy as she has worked around the world in many different environments, from Asia to Russia and all. Very knowledgeable about cattle care, dairy cattle care, and especially calf care in many, many environments and circumstances. So it is a great honor to have her here today to present to us and share that expertise, as well as her great insight into robotic opportunities that are available. So with that, I will pass the presenter role over to Nancy.
Thank you, Andrew, and the Bovine for the opportunity for DeLaval to host a webinar. I see all around the world many people following their interesting articles and logging into webinars after the live presentation. It is my passion, calves, so I am extremely excited to be here. I grew up on a small dairy farm. I guess my first love was the horse, but with dairy farming, reproduction, and calf rearing have been with me for a very long time. I find today that there truly is no excuse for not knowing, thanks to the internet, thanks to social media, thanks to us being able to move around more than our parents and grandparents. But as I travel, I find there continues to be many excuses for not doing, for not carrying out the knowledge that is there. For some of you internationally or new to the calf world, you can see on my screen places that I go to. I don't even bother writing out protocols anymore. I just go to these websites and download what I need. Calf Care is a Canadian organization that came out of the baby bull calf world. Some people refer to it as veal, but I think if we look at all our calves as animals, perhaps we'll start to change how we treat some of them in certain situations. Calf Notes, Calving Ease, you got the Sam Ledley's and the James Quigley's writing out some good protocols. Dr. McGurk from Wisconsin has been there for a very long time, as well as Dr. Stepasia and Russian doing some excellent work in calf well-being. If you're from America or Southwestern Ontario, Drackley and Van Amberg with the calf world should become synonymous. And out in the University of Alberta, we've got Michael Steele doing great things. He's just starting with a whole new research in calves in the prairies. So today, why robotic calf feeding? Some people even criticize the word robotic, and they like the word automated. But anyways, we're going to talk about a new and a different world for many of us. Others have been there for quite a while. And why would we consider this? And in looking at everything, I believe it's a way to go to help create a world that captures some amazing genetics that are there. And I've got many good friends in the genetics world striving to improve upon what we already have. And then as I travel around, I see what we already have not being used to its fullest extent. If we've got cows that can produce, well, I guess in Wisconsin, the highest producer is well up towards 60,000 pounds. The genetic base isn't that much different. So, in theory, we should have our herds on average producing more. There's lots of controversy in the calf world. I've been in it since 1996, and that's when I started my campaign, thanks to Dr. Rennie Lothrop, to try and get more milk into calves. And the first thing I ran into is, can't do it. Milk causes scours. Feeding calves has many opinions. So let's go back to the basics and what I think we can all agree on. We want and we need healthy calves. We aim to have calves that produce superior to the dam. we aim to have calves that calve out as first lactation heifers more efficiently. And we still want to do that at 82% of mature weight. We aim to have, and I think we need, particularly in this situation, animals to produce more milk efficiently. And this can even lapse over into the environment with carbon production and whatnot. As one animal produces more, her carbon footprint is less. Many factors are involved to accomplish these goals, but there's one common factor, and that's the role of feeding liquid in the first 2 months of life, but I'm going to really hone in on the first 2 weeks of life, and in particular, the first 7 days of life. And it's not white water. We need to talk about the megacalories of energy and protein levels, and not just liters. And what does robotic feeding have to do with this? Well, just hang on. Let's remember, too often, too many heifers miss the target for age at first calving. There was a statistic in our French dairy magazine. On average in Quebec, it's 27 months age at first calving. And then it's on average 24 months of the life of the cow. And that's not because the cows have to go necessarily. It's because we like to keep lots of heifers around in Canada, and I see it in the U.S. as well. So we let these heifers linger longer, and then they're always knocking at the door. So cows can leave on average after 2 years. Cost of raising heifers, highly controversial. So emailed around some people that I know, and these are the numbers that I get. So in Canada, it's $2,600 around 2 years, and it goes up incrementally. You're looking at $2,800. Some places in Western Canada talk closer to $3,000, and then others will skimp right down on just your basic costs and bring that down closer to $2,000. The U.S. Closer to $1,700 for that 2-year-old. And there is a dollar difference at the moment between the U.S. and Canada. And I was even in the UK in the summertime, and it's 1,250 British pounds, which again comes right up around that 2,600 Canadian, and maybe closer to that 1,800 US dollars. So it seems everywhere we go, we're getting, relative to the dollars, we're getting similar costs involved in raising these heifers. There's many different ideas on how to raise calves, but I think we all have the same common goal, and that's what I want to promote, is health, leading to fertility, leading to more efficient milk production. And as I travel, and I'm at fault too sometimes of looking for a magical drug or product, but I believe we've had that powerful product in our hands for a very long time, and it's called milk, in the form of whole pasteurized milk, or milk powder. And the milk powders are improving. They've improved tremendously in my lifetime as a vet. Definitely a big difference between now and when they first came on the market 40, 50 years ago, and had some failures. So in the first 2 months, and let's start right from day one of life, you have the ability to influence the health of your calves, which sets them up for their journey, of course. This can be difficult on small farms to get multiple small meals into very young calves, because we are jack of all trades, trying to do many things as a family member and dairy farmer. And for large farms, I've run into more comments on finding labor to feed large numbers of calves. Without nutrition, we don't have health, and without health, I don't believe we have anything. And I'm a little frustrated with generalities. Not a fan of happy and words like that to describe calves. Let's talk about health. Let's set parameters. So what is a healthy calf? Well, a normal temperature, 39 to 39.5 degrees Celsius 101 to 102 Fahrenheit. A fever is increased temperature beyond those numbers. The more nutrition we have, the easier it is for calves to fight off infections all on their own. Manure. What is healthy manure? Well, we like to see solid manure, and we tend to stress over loose manure. But as we feed more liquid, we have to learn what loose manure really means when it sets us off to grab antibiotics. I think we sometimes overtreat. Milk consumption. What's the milk consumption of a normal, healthy animal? And as you start to feed more milk, I think you'll be on a learning curve as to what's normal and abnormal. Anywhere from 5 quarts liters to 15 quarts liters. And the way calves behave, sick versus healthy, is different between restricted versus free choice. Calves drinking lots of milk, when they start to not feel so well, will come down around that 4, 5, 6 liters or quarts. However, on restricted, you may never see that until they're really sick and they're dropping down to 2, 3 or nothing. Average daily gain. Van Amberg has introduced us to the mantra, double the birth weight in 56 days. So we're looking at 88 pounds to 180 pounds, 40 kgs to 80 kgs. Without nutrition, we don't have anything. Without nutrition, we don't have health. Without health, we don't have anything. Again, looking back at the parameters on health. Are their coats shiny? Are their eyes bright and alert? Are their heads up? Are they active, moving around with ease, running, kicking? And sometimes that's a little hard to see in small individual pens. But when we put them in groups and we walk through them twice a day, we, I believe, can see this easier, or it's our responsibility to help farms train staff. Respiratory rates, this is tricky, particularly in hot weather. We're looking at 15 to 30 breaths per minute, depending on age. Usually vets only look at this and count this, but with the average person, they're looking for signs of puffing. And in hot weather, there can be sometimes puffing that covers up, mimics what people think is pneumonia. So that can be tricky. With the heart rate, we're looking at 100 to 140 beats per minute. It's twice that of a cow. Again, most people don't look at that outside of being a vet. What's the role of genetics in all of this? Nobody debates the role of genetics for increased milk production. However, sometimes I think we get a little overexcited on genetics, and we may miss the point on what we have right in our hands to influence a little quicker. So earlier this year, Dr. Van Amberg reported that milk yield will increase 150 to 300 pounds or 70 to 140 kilograms per lactation due to genetic selection. But the effective management, particularly in these calves, is 3 to 5 times that of genetic selection. So if we can focus on the energy and the protein requirements first, and then quarts, pounds of milk powder second, and combine that with the direction you want to take with your genetics, you may move a little faster yet. Can you feed too much milk? There's lots of questions on Twitter. Still a lot of people wondering what's too much. Can we take them up too fast? What are the meal sizes? There's different examples of rations. We've got whole milk versus milk powder. We've got different amounts. Here's 2 plans. 1 through 5 is one that I started with DeLaval 5 years ago, and then the second one is one that I moved to, 6 through 8, over the last 2 years at a 500 cow dairy 10 minutes from my house. And this last one was an attempt to mimic free choice, or the latest software update on our computers before the latest software update was available. And as people fight that milk causes scours, moving up to high amounts, I just needed proof that it doesn't cause scours and it doesn't kill calves. So this is an example from Calf Manager software with our calf feeders that she went from 3.3 to 10.2 liters from day 3 to 16 of life. And this was an attempt to mimic what she might do with the cow. However, in studying what happens with the cow, we do know that there's cow-calf bonding and interaction that stimulates them to come more often. So they may even drink a little more from the cow. But you can see down here on the 19th of November last year, she came on. And then the first day they come on after they've had their morning meal. So they drink about 2 to 3 liters in the afternoon. And then you can see the next day, she went up to 10, 9. Then she comes down to 6, back up to 9. And then you can see the visits over here on the right-hand side. This farm does have loose manure, calf scour syndrome at day 7 to 10 of life. That's why I like the calves to come on at day 3 to 5. Consume this milk in multiple small meals, which would be very difficult to do in most of my small farm families. May be possible in large farms, feeding calves 3 times a day, 2.5 to 3 quarts, 2.5 to 3 liters. But I, in my world, rarely see that. I see it more in the U.S., internationally. But now I am going to meetings and listening to people complain about finding people to do this. So as you can see, the calf comes down 3.5, 4, 3, and then pulls out. So in this time period of here, 3 to 5 liters, it's a reduced consumption, and then it comes out 9, 9.3. And when I took this print screen, it was early in the morning. So to me, this calf is handling the challenge of the diarrhea at day 7 to 10, has nothing to do with the milk, and this extra milk actually allows it to pull through more on its own. Here's another calf that came on. Just a closer up look at the actual consumption. So if you're watching this webinar later on, or you have a copy of the PowerPoint, you can see the numbers a little clearer. Calf 582, this is an American friend of mine, offered 24 liters in the first 7 days in the machine from day 3 to 10 of life. And we did this to see if we could harm the calves with high rations, and we couldn't. So here the calf is drinking steady 6 to 7 liters, even though in theory it could drink more. With our new 40 Fit program, with the DeLaval feeders, calves can drink ad lib for a period of time. And in working with this program, we generally go with ad lib for the first month, and then we start to take them off of that in order to drive them to grain. So this calf went on this feeder at day 6 of life, and this is what it did in the first 8 days on the machine. And again, even though it could drink a lot more, it did not gorge itself, it did not pig out, it did not do all these things that many people are afraid of. 6, 8, 11, 7, 6, 6, 8. And these calves move around. And to me, because they come when they want, they alter their pattern, they alter what they're going to do. It's like a robotic milking. Some calves come 3 times, some one day, 2 the next, and they alter their times that they like to come. For young calf nutrition, it's important that you work with someone who specializes in calf nutrition, particularly when you're making changes that are new to you. too often, if you just go to the store and buy the milk powder without talking to someone or getting to know someone who understands the manufacturing of it, we can get ourselves into a wee bit of trouble. So the quality of the milk, so we're looking at pasteurized milk, the role of sick cow or mastitis milk in calf nutrition, and again, stay close to a vet and feed nutritionist, calf nutritionist, who have very good programs and can help you out if you have some challenges. With the many milk replacers, there's still many that are formulated on least cost. Others will formulate differently, but then the cost may go up and down more than if you're in a least cost formulated product. If you're having issues, though, make sure you try and get close to someone who understands the product that you're using. As well, ash content, bacteria content in some milk replacers may be something that needs to be looked at. The source of the protein, whey versus plant, the fat content, the source of the fat. And again, some of these move through calf feeders better than others. And then also look at the role of the dry feed program. If you're just focusing on liquid and you're not tying the dry feed program, we sometimes see calves go backwards or perhaps some issues with cross-sucking. When there are health issues on the farm, we always look at the hygiene of the equipment. So get into a routine beforehand with respect to cleaning so that doesn't become an issue. Again, purchase a quality milk powder, whole milk, you're investing in your future. But should there be issues, then we can look at cultures to see if there's bacteria coming through that shouldn't. And calves love consistency. Does any old milk or milk powder calf starter do? I say no. If we're looking at weaning a calf on 2 bags of milk replacer, there's a bit of interesting differences in price. It's somewhere between 140 to 170 Canadian or US. And there's a difference in our dollar. So right now, I think milk replacers are a really good deal in Canada. To optimize growth, look at the first 4 weeks, minimum offering of 8 quarts or liters per day in the first month. And some people are playing with the ad. And then you can decrease in that second month to 2 quarts. Ideal weaning is day 29, is 14 days. So again, you can play with that. Day 29 to 40 is obviously 11, and then take 2 or 3 days to wean. Weaning is 6 to 8 weeks for the more aggressive programs. So if you're looking at costs, where to invest, you can reduce your milk powder cost by reducing to 1.5 bags. With a 28-16, drive the calves to grain and build your program around quality calf starter to be able to wean at 42 days. This is a minority of farms doing it. Some do it really well, and others have tried it, and it just wasn't for them. We want to make sure we keep feeding heifers to breed them at 13, 14 months, calve out 22 to 24. Take the extra costs of raising a heifer to calve out after 24 months from the back end and stick it in the front end. Why individual housing in the past? And maybe it's still an option for many out there. Reduce disease spread, and that all depends. I've seen some messy individual housing that really doesn't reduce spread. Reduce cross-sucking. This is a complicated issue. Of course, when they're in individual pens, it's hard for them to suck each other, and they may just end up sucking in inorganic objects in the pen, and that really doesn't bother you. We can get increased weight gains in either system. I believe it's a little easier in group housing with automated feeding, only because in Canada, I don't see people feeding 3 times a day. Improved sanitation, you have to be or should be clean in both situations. So take good hygiene from individual housing and apply it to group or vice versa. And now there's more group housing. Well, we're trying to achieve growth and health, but make labor more efficient and attractive. So we're looking at the advantages of group housing, and this is where the robotic feeding comes in. So improve weight gains with increased calories through the machines and more meals per day to help manage how this nutrition flows through them. My favorite is a smoother weaning transition. Walking into automated barns with no balling is a real treat. Many issues surrounding, okay, do people like calves in individual pens? So can we get them into groups, let them have their normal social behavior and run around? Again, as I said, more efficient for labor due to machine or different type of labor. So can we hire people to manage machines and health of calves compared to carrying pails and cleaning? We always have to be careful when we talk about less time. It's different time and it's different tasks. And free choice of water, which I see as less labor, because when I talk to the large hutch situation, it's always an issue getting people taking water around, and then also in the winter time, if we're not somewhere insulated, it's difficult to feed water. But life is real, and sometimes we have challenges. So why is this? In recent years, I've gone to thinking of life as a teeter-totter. And what is the tipping point? With calves, we first have to start with the 5 C's of calf raising, thanks to what Dr. McGurk has pulled together: colostrum, calories, consistency, cleanliness, and comfort. When we get into trouble, we go from colostrum to poor or no colostrum. We go from calories to lack of calories, perhaps the wrong source. We go from consistency to inconsistent. We go from cleanliness to not clean enough. And we go from comfort to wet and chilled. So this is my favorite picture. When things are going well, we've got the 5 C's at the one end, and when they don't go well, the opposite takes over and we flip. And we start with sick calves, not doing so well, a few more deads, and then we end up with that panic phone call with dead calves, increased vet costs, drug costs, and poor results. So for this picture, is the teeter-totter in the right direction? And this would be, I have some pictures, and you can have these discussions perhaps at the end of the presentation. What's right for calves? How do we set them up for the teeter-totter to be in the right direction or for it to flip? Managing groups, it depends on your herd size. Are we raising heifers only or heifers and bulls? How many calvings do we have a day, a week? So if we can put in a group on the calf feeder as soon as a calf is strong and has a strong suckle reflex, this works in many situations. But it may not work if you struggle with scours too soon after birth. So that's something that has to be dealt with a good calf vet. You need to work on the challenges leading to the scours, and you have to work to get strong suckle reflexes, good body conditions, lots of milk with at least 2 meals with 3 quarts, or ideally 3 meals with 2 quarts. If we have a weak suckle, we're losing weight, restricted milk, scours early on after birth, this leads to frustrations. Smaller farms tend to put calves in on on a certain day of life, and the larger farms put calves in on a certain day of the week. Smaller farms, all in, all out, is more difficult. Therefore, bedding and hygiene is extremely important. And every once in a while, you may have to adopt an all out at some point to help keep challenges down. So good management must meet or exceed the challenges. Good quality colostrum versus poor quality or no quality is extremely important for the foundation of success and keeping the teeter-totter in the right direction. Focusing is always a challenge, especially when we get busy. Family farms, we're in the field, we're running here, we're running there. Are they being born into a clean, dry environment versus a dirtier one? Are they clean and nesting in a dry environment? Or when we bed them, are they already wet? Do we have a routine to clean equipment? And do we accept that not everything can be completely automated and that we might have to do some extra work? Are we committed to low to moderate level of bugs versus moderate to high level? And we're not looking for a sterile environment. We're looking for an environment where the calf's immune system is stronger than the challenge. Probiotics, I hear a lot about it. What is their role? I don't think it's a magic bullet, but it can play a positive role in helping healthy calves remain healthy. And if we're just on the teetering or the tottering of going over the edge, perhaps with some clostridiums or something, we can help keep the bug population in the intestine positive. They are finding that when we're feeding more liquid, the digestive tract may be affected differently, definitely than in comparison to a restricted diet. So we've got higher intakes, higher passage rates, and we will have loose manure or dirtier diapers. And we've got to look at their eyes and their ears and their attitude, maybe take some temperatures to convince ourselves that this isn't a stick scour. So in order to help keep the gut population healthy, we can look at some direct-fed microbials called probiotics. And even with the colitis and whatnot in humans, they are recommending products such as these for humans, and they're also used in other animals. We do have some trials wrapping up with some exciting results on our DeLaval Feed Tech direct-fed microbial. It will be published soon in the Journal of Dairy Science. It is available in the U.S. From our DeLaval dealers. Unfortunately, not available in Canada yet. So this leads into my favorite, not so favorite topic of diarrhea scours. What's the difference between loose manure and a sick calf? I believe that's where our milk intake goes down to too low of a level. And as you feed more milk, this can become a little challenging to teach yourself. When you feed restricted milk, in a sense, it's easier to see because we're already underfeeding them, in my opinion. Diarrhea is a challenging management disease, or can be on some farms. Think of garbage in, garbage out. So if they're born into a dirty environment with poop in their mouth, in it goes, and then it may come out the other end. Look at our bucket milkers, some of that fresh cow milk being fed on some of our smaller farms. So the hygiene and sanitation is very important. Sometimes my greatest frustration is farms that get away with sloppiness. They get away with things that they shouldn't do. So then it's quite hard to teach, find a teachable moment. For diarrhea and scours, this is the chart that I like to look at. People like to describe a diarrhea and get me to tell them what it is. And I like to go with, how old is the calf? So here's the bugs: E. coli, Salmonella, Clostridium, Rhodocorona, Cryptosporidia, and Cocci. And I believe these are on all farms. And you have to find the tipping point when things go awry. building up those calves in the first week before that typical 7 to 10 day scour, and just some rules of thumb. It's a pound of milk replacer or 450 grams just to get up and down at 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 17. At 32 at freezing or 0 degrees, a baby Holstein calf needs 1.5 pounds or 675 grams just to get up and down. And none of this accounts for any growing or fighting infections. Unfortunately, I was unable to find a chart that summarizes today's research findings. But what I find from personal experience is right from day 2 on a Holstein calf, we should be looking at 3 quarts, 3 liters twice a day, or 2 quarts, 2 liters 3 times a day. That should be a 3x, not a 2x. The University of British Columbia found that Holstein calves are drinking on average 7.5 quarts or liters by 7 days of age. My conclusion is we underfeed newborn Holstein calves in the first week of life. Bedding, what is the role? Clean, dry, cushion, and allow this calf to nest. I know from personal experience it's hard to keep the straw fluffy, but in talking to some of my calf raisers, adding a little bit of straw every day, except for maybe Sunday morning, is their mantra. Deep, long straw is always the best. It's obviously hard to nest in wood shavings and sawdust. One of the favorite places I visited was in Alberta, and he said, I bed the day before I think I need to bed. And anytime you bed a calf and it's wet, just think of wearing a pair of wet trousers. Group housing with automated feeding. Ventilation is key for health of lungs. Do not place this group in any kind of second-rate environment. It is a recipe for a disaster. Air exchange is absolutely crucial. Positive pressure ventilation is popular in Midwestern U.S., Eastern U.S., and Canada. Summertime, I find, is easier to ventilate, especially if you have mechanical. On those hot, stuffy days, we just turn on the fans and move as much air as possible. Calf coats can be put on sooner as opposed to later, and I like to see them start in October even. Anytime the temperature goes under 15, but you need a calf coat that can breathe. Extra bedding, it's damp and humid, cold. Whenever there's more moisture in the air, think of more bedding. Dry is always cooler. Megacalories must match the growth, but if we go to the systems where we can feed ad lib in the first month, or we just crank up what's available between 8 and 12 liters or quarts, we don't have to worry about underfeeding. Wintertime, we need air exchanges without a direct draft. In talking to engineers, they want 4 to 6 air exchanges an hour, and this results in the solution to pollution is dilution with respiratory challenges. Some pictures of calf barns, calf rooms. I like to keep calves away from walls in the northern climates, and again, it's an ongoing challenge to get to 4 air exchanges per hour in the coldest months. I would say tour barns on a rainy, cold, damp day in the north, and if you like what you see, then you drive on. Is one system better or different than the other? I believe all choices in life are about differences. With group housing, there's a lot of advantages, and you'll come up against some challenges. So you have to be prepared to work as a team. And how you fed in the past, you may have to have a rethink on it. You've got to have the ventilation right. And the square footage is something that's evolving. 5 years ago, we were still talking about 22 square feet, and now we at DeLaval are looking at barns up to 45 square feet per calf. Ultimately, if you choose the wrong square footage, animals will die back to the right number, and this is all according to the bug or the pathogen pressure in your barn. So much of my experience in my spare time comes from this family, 500 cows, 10 minutes from my house. And we started this journey of increased milk. And I said to Hank, can I do it? And if I kill a calf, I'll pay for it. In the end, they've seen improved health, decreased age at first calving, and increased milk in their first lactation. So it has all been good, a great journey. So that's it. Time for questions.
So first question, what is the most important factor you look for when you walk in on a pen of calves? Is it appetite, appearance, manure? What things are the first things you look at?
I guess attitude. Well, first of all, are they bawling or not bawling? If there's any bawling going on, I'd like to know what might be behind that. Is that restricted feeding? Is it clean? Is it dry? Take a great big smell of the air. I like to fall on my knees in the pen, and I like to breathe down where the calf is, because that's where they're spending or should be spending much of their time. We stand up tall and the calves are down low. So are they kicking around? Are they dull, lethargic? If they're dull and lethargic, is there a wet tail that goes with it, a swollen navel? Or are they just puffing? And so even are they standing humpback? Those types of things. When I come in, I guess I like to see calves spread out. They do like to lie up next to something, so that's why I don't like calf pens up against cold walls. So I like them drinking, maybe socializing, nibbling away at some dry feed, or then going and lying down in dry straw, shavings, whatnot, maybe in the summertime.
You showed us a chart showing some fluctuations in daily consumption. Should we worry about fluctuations over short periods, or is it a longer period trend we have to look at?
Yeah, so those are actual calf consumptions out of our software. And I think this is just new information, and something that we have to learn is how the calf drinks, and it will drink more on one day and a little less on the other day. We are not regulating it, it's self-regulating. So should we be concerned? Only if it goes with dull, lethargic calves. And so that's why I like to walk in and see who looks dull and lethargic, and then go look at their consumption.
Are the calves that will gorge themselves when they first get on an automated calf feeder?
If we're under a situation where we take the calves from the dam, we fill them with lots of ooey gooey colostrum, then and I'm talking about an 85-pound Holstein, then we offer them 2.5 to 3 quarts of milk twice a day until they go on to the machine. Then what the 500 cow herd taught me is that you feed them 3 quarts in the morning, and then you put them on in the afternoon, and there's no gorging. Or after you feed them, as soon as you're done your chores, you move calves between 10 and noon. If they're gorging,
go ahead.
Sorry, if they're gorging, then you've brought on a calf that's been underfed.
Okay. In your experience, are the numbers that you've seen differences in growth rates based on pasteurized, powdered, or different forms of milk?
Well, you'll get different growth rates depending on the formulation of calf, of milk replacers. If you feed lots, you will get bigger animals. If you feed lots of anything, you'll get bigger animals. Now, do we want a bigger animal with lots of fat on it, or do we want a taller animal with frame and muscle and just, a nice amount of fat? So this is why 2020s and whole milk and some of these other products out there, people say, oh, well, my calves are growing. Then if you compare those to 2816s, either with ultrasounding, or if it's bull calves, and you can do carcass comparisons, that's when you'll see that some of those formulations are just putting inefficient fat on.
What's the ideal number of automated feeder?
The ideal number of calves per automated feeder?
Yeah.
If you want me to talk like an animal behaviorist, they're looking at 8 to 12 calves in a group for behavior. If you want me to talk as the owner that's looking at the investment of feeding equipment, then we can go up to 20. There are farms that will have higher, but they are superstars. And if you're a superstar, go for it. If you know you've got some limitations, don't even try it. In those farms where there are 20 to 30 calves in a pen, or 20 to 30 calves per nipple, they're actually making them bigger, and they have the 2 nipples. As I said, superstars can do it. It's not for everybody. So you have to look at what's ideal for behavior, and then what your economic situation is like. The machines can handle it. So then it's up to calf behavior, housing design, and all of that. And I think square footage, as we make groups bigger, becomes extremely important.
Neighbor who uses a robotic milking machine, and he talks about getting cows trained on the robotic milking machine. What is involved in getting a calf trained on an automated feeder?
When it's extremely young, it's very little. They learn quickly. For healthy calves that are not suffering from fevers, pain, inflammation, most of them, you bring them on in the afternoon. 50% of the people like to leave them to explore. 50% will make sure they come up and have a drink. Then the next morning, you go in, you see who has consumed, who hasn't. Some calves take off right away. Others you'll have to pay attention to longer. And there may be the odd calf that takes 4 or 5 days. But then the whole thing with fetching becomes, don't train them to be fetched. So that's when you should change up your times if you can. So majority of healthy calves coming on are self-taught, and you just do a little bit of fetching and follow up. I like to bring them on at 3 to 5 days of age with a strong suckle reflex. There are others that are totally against that. However, the longer you leave them, the more challenging it can be to get them going.
Is there an age range or a size difference that can cause bullying or social issues in grouping the calves?
With my herd size here in Canada, I like to try and stay within 2 weeks. I know in the US with the larger farms, it's easier to go with weekly, and then you're just left with, individual dominant submissive behaviors that evolve. In my very small farms, I will see up to 1 month in the same group. I don't like it. I always try and say, let's have kindergarten class up to 2. Okay, if you really got to leave a 3-week-old calf in, but I don't like it, and then send them on to junior high on the other side. I think if we got lots of space, we've got lots of milk, we're feeding a good quality nutrition, then those issues should be less relevant. I realize with very small farms, we have to make some compromises.
What are the 3 biggest should switch or consider switching to automated feeding?
Sorry, what are the three what?
Biggest reasons producers should consider switching.
I guess my favorite is you understand and appreciate how more milk into them, particularly in the first 2 weeks of life, is important, and you just can't get it done. Number two is you struggle with the weaning process. And I guess number three is the combination of the two. It's labor, and it can be labor at a small farm level, because you can't do 3 times a day, and it's labor at a large herd level. You just can't find people to fill the shifts. So to me, it's the first 2 weeks, and it's the weaning process that sets these calves off for a successful life, and you just can't get it done regardless of your size of farm.
And that is all the questions. On behalf of everyone who attended today and the bovine, I want to thank Dr. Charlton for taking the time to share this great insight with us. We appreciate it tomorrow. And if they had any questions or needed any further information, Nancy, how could they get a route to get their questions answered?
Yes, I should have put it on my last slide. Nancy.Charlton. That's CharltonN, and then it's at DeLaval.com, and you can see DeLaval on the screen. Or they email you and you forward it to me.
With that, I want to thank Nancy for taking the time to present with us, and appreciate everyone for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you, Andrew. Take care, everyone. Bye.